You're listening to
Hello, Huddersfield.
the Voices of Huddersfield, inspiring the future vision. Hello, and thank you for listening to Hello Huddersfield. Today, for our podcast, we have with us Tony Goldstein from the FM Company, who will share with us his visions for Huddersfield Town Centre in the near future and beyond. To get involved with this or future podcasts, please feel free to email us at inquiries@huddersfieldbid.co.uk. Co-hosting the show with myself, Sophie, we have bid manager Matthew Chapman, who will join the discussion throughout. Hi, Matthew. How are you today?
Hello, Sophie. I'm really good. Thank you. I hope you're all right.
Yes, I'm well, thank you. And Tony, thank you for being here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Sophie. Are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. So tell us a little about what you do and your relationship to Huddersfield.
Well, what I do, I'm the managing director of the FM Company, which is a Huddersfield-based security and facilities management company. So the company, I guess, really does everything from providing a security guard or CCTV or intruder alarms right the way through to helping people with air conditioning and lifts and anything that you can think of within a building, window cleaning, grounds maintenance. So quite a lot of things, really. So my relationship with Huddersfield, I was born here. So I've lived here pretty much all my life. Had a brief spell away at university and then came back because I love the place so much.
And can I dig a little bit deeper there, Tony? Because we've kind of built a relationship over the past year, and whether that be a professional relationship, a personal relationship, we've got to know each other pretty well. And I guess that relationship extends right the way to sport, or right the way down to the task force group that you were really, really helpful with. And thank you for that. Before we go any further, your part in that, I know that your opinion was really valuable throughout that process. And I wonder, I guess as a true Yorkshireman, I guess the place to start would be that relationship with the sporting teams in the town. I know you've got a relationship from a professional point of view in the sporting environment and an amateur point of view.
Yeah, very much so, Matthew. Yeah, it's really, really kind of you actually just to relate back to one of your points. The task force that you guys set up earlier on in the year was an absolutely fantastic group, and it was a privilege, massive honour actually to be asked to be a part of that. So thanks very much indeed. The work that you guys did during that period was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm quite sure that that things will continue to move in the right direction as far as the town centre is concerned. We can see that you're pushing in that direction. So first and foremost, that's a massive triumph, and thanks again. But yeah, so the town centre itself, or the town itself, you can't not be from Huddersfield and have massive affiliations for a sport, whether it's the Giants or whether it's Huddersfield Town. And I must admit the latter came first for me as a love in my life. I'd strong links with Huddersfield Town literally all my life, from the second that Dad took me to watch a game in 1987 all the way through to the present day. And we're just really, really fortunate now that we're able to sponsor them from time to time and spend a bit of time entertaining other clients and bringing people actually to watch Huddersfield Town. So it's just fantastic, lovely position to be in. And the Huddersfield Giants, yeah, absolutely. They're good personal friends. The players are they work so hard. The management works so hard, and I think being from Huddersfield and having this huge affinity as a child, all the way growing up, watching the teams play and going to the stadium, and even actually playing rugby at the old Fartown ground before they played against Moscow Magicians in 1990, I think. So yeah, the affinity does stretch back that far. So again, to have the ability to be able to be involved with them in the way that we are now, the sponsorship and what have you, is just, it's a real dream come true. Yeah, we're just so fortunate, really lucky.
And I think the other thing, Tony, that has really inspired me in one of the things that you mentioned quite early on in us getting to know each other, is that, and correct me if I get this terminology wrong, the insular economy that you talk about in Huddersfield. And you're probably going to be the better person to describe that than me. And I hope I've got that terminology right. But I think it'd be worth just spending a couple of minutes on your passions surrounding that terminology and movement, I suppose.
Yeah, I've no problem in exploring my geeky passions, Matthew. There's no problem there. But yeah, it is a pretty geeky thing. But then it's also from a business perspective, it's a very, very commonsensical way to work, if that's the right way to word it. So we have the ability, because of our backgrounds, to be able to develop long-term partnerships with quite large organisations. We're just very, very lucky to have links into them, or to, I suppose, understand how they function and know what they need within their business. And I guess, taking the likes of Mamas and Papas or huge property management companies that operate on a multinational basis, because of the relationships we've got and the understanding of their business structure, we're able then to develop business relationships to the point where we can become involved in them, but we don't have the specific skill sets that they need from a facilities or maintenance perspective. So the idea is that, we surround ourselves with tradesmen who are 100 times better at their jobs than we will ever be. But we try and pick those trades from within Kirklees. So the idea is that we bring in business relationships with large multinational businesses, and we then deploy Huddersfield-based tradespeople to go out and attend to, whether it's a leaky tap or a broken sink, or God forbid, a broken toilet or a light bulb, or some joinery works, or anything that you can think of that they may need us to do on a maintenance basis. They obviously then pay us, the multinational, and we then distribute that out to our subcontractors who are based in Kirklees, and then those subcontractors go and buy their materials from local hardware stores, or they'll do their shopping in local farm shops, or local businesses in the town centre, or even in the villages. And that kind of creates this cyclic economy, basically, where the larger organisations work with the medium-sized organisations who work with the small organisations, but we try and keep all of that trade inside Kirklees. So one example at the minute, for example, would be Mamas and Papas. So Mamas and Papas, huge multinational business. Everybody knows Mamas and Papas. They use us for various different services, and again, we then farm those out to local subcontractors. So you have a large national organisation in Kirklees who's paying a medium-sized business in Kirklees, who's paying a tradesman in Kirklees, and I guess all of that cyclic spending then starts again. Similar kind of thing for shopping centres. Where shopping centres like the Packhorse Shopping Centre, for example, would employ us as their maintenance contractor, and we'd get local plumbers or local electricians to attend to maintenance needs on contract. And then they would potentially then buy a sandwich from inside the Packhorse Centre, which is that insular economy, or cyclic economy. It is prime example in literally one place, literally in one shopping centre.
Tell us about your favourite memory in your time in Huddersfield.
Oh, Sophie, growing up in Huddersfield, I have so many favourite memories, and they're completely mixed, from sporting occasions with both clubs through to the nightlife and growing up, Greenhead College days, Huddersfield University days. I could speak for hours about various different memories that I've got. Maybe in the time Beautiful South, came to the stadium and did a huge music festival, and I worked in a burger van. So yeah. Then there's obviously there's heartbreaks and memories as well. There's Huddersfield Town in the playoffs against Peterborough at the old Leeds Road ground and not quite making it through. And then there's Huddersfield Town being promoted to the Premier League. And then there's 2013 for the Huddersfield Giants, the League Leaders Shield. I think, there's so many different memories, usually sporting, because that's just, that's where my love lie. But yeah, those to name a few at least. I do miss how bustling the town centre used to be. Certainly, when we grew up, sort of mid to late 90s, it was really, really well frequented on a weekend, and I even remember the time when you had to wear trousers and a shirt to get in a nightclub in town as well. So that's some time ago. Great memories made in this town.
What do you think is or needs to be Huddersfield's unique selling point?
Town's got quite a few very unique selling points, to be honest with you. Straying more into a commercial selling point, we know that Huddersfield is only one of two places that has direct motorway links to the M62 east and west, literally coast to coast, and the M1, literally from Newcastle all the way down to London. So from a uniqueness perspective, there's only Huddersfield and Leeds that has that. So I'd love to see us try and capitalise a little bit more on good transport links that would allow businesses to grow, both commercial businesses and even industry, bringing industry back, because we've got all the bare bones of a really good logistical network because we've got all the bare bones of a really good logistics network that would allow us to compete with some of the cities as far as building trade and building commerce and building businesses concerned. I think it probably just needs to be harnessed in the right way, and obviously not overlooking the extent of inward investment that would need to come into the town to make that happen. But the unique selling point is, without a doubt, it's logistical networks.
And Tony, could I just sneak in there and kind of ask from a less commercial point of view, what you feel the unique selling points could be, from more of a personal point of view for the town centre, let's say?
From the town centre, I'd love to see the likes of Home Firth, Lindley. I'd love to see Slathwaite and those kind of village feels brought into the town centre. I just feel that we're a little bit too late to the party on it, because if we can create living space or living quarters within the town centre that are a good value and good quality, then we can potentially emulate what a lot of the cities have done. And those cities, Manchester and Leeds, have converted a lot of their office space into dwellings, into living spaces. If you can do that, then you automatically create an audience, and the audience could then feed local pubs, local shops. And it also breeds a bit of an affinity with the town centre as well. A live-in community in that area is going to be more inclined to look after it, to make sure that everything looks good, because they're going to want to take pride in where they actually live. Now, coupled with that, there's very little. In fact, I think I'm probably right in saying there's zero grade A office space in Huddersfield Town Centre. So I'd love to be able to see parts of the centre rejuvenated and grade A office space going up. That way you can attract and retain some of its student population, because a lot of the students that come to Huddersfield either go back to where they're from, or they find another city and end up working in a city. And that's probably because we don't have that attraction. We don't have grade A office space, and we don't have town centre living spaces, and we don't have a bustling, kind of town centre community. And I think that live, learn, work, play inside a town centre is probably the best way to go forward. And the way to do that is, again, to emulate city centres. Look at how Leeds and Manchester have progressed over the years, and I think that would certainly be the best way to go forward. And it's doable. It's doable inside our town centre. It's doable without jeopardising heritage. Because I also believe there's a really nice, unique part. Huddersfield can retain some of that heritage in the town centre. You've got the Lion Chambers, for example. You've got the Ramsden buildings there, which I know, Matthew, you showed us a fantastic few pictures. You know, people walk past that place and have no idea what it looks like inside. And I must admit, I was really, really shocked to see how amazing it was and how much fantastic, really old architecture there is in there. That's all heritage, and I wouldn't want to see that, you know, torn down for the sake of shiny glass buildings. But you can do both, and these city centres are proving that you can do both. So I'd love to see a heritage quarter, maybe around the train station and the George Hotel and the Ramsden buildings and that area. I'd love to see a living quarter where we potentially take drastic measures and demolish a bit of the town centre and put up some really, really good living space. I'd love to see a playing quarter. So pubs, clubs, restaurants, maybe somewhere like the Piazza, and redevelop that has that almost continental feel, I suppose, really, for pubs, and, you know, and it's all consolidated into that area. I could certainly see that, you know, kind of 7 o'clock on a nice sunny August evening, and people eating out and families playing and what have you around that area. And then again, you know, I'd love to see a commercial area where you have, you know, the insurance companies and you have the legal firms, and they're kind of, you know, consolidated, or even call centres or anything commercial. So I think with the basics of a view and a vision for the town centre in terms of where to go, yeah, you can tell I've probably thought about this a little bit too hard, can't you? But I think there's certainly potential. And again, going back to the logistics network, there's no reason at all that couldn't, you know, feed the outskirts of town as well, and, you know, build back that industrial life.
Really, really good points there, Tony. Thank you so much. There's it kind of all just like the circular description you were mentioning earlier about supporting the local economy. This kind of discussion is going a little bit like that as well, because I feel like you're talking about the kind of the commercial and the heritage and the office offering in Huddersfield. That kind of is backed up with the transport network that you mentioned before. I think if we look at some of the other bigger city centres, I think that they've probably seen the biggest decline, if we're honest, during this past year. Smaller towns like Huddersfield, Halifax, Bradford, the footfall figures, and not having a kind of a cliff face decline in the footfall, like your Leeds, your Manchesters, your Birminghams. And it's really interesting to see that, you know, we're talking about a living quarter in Huddersfield. I guess there's a real opportunity there to introduce living quarters in Huddersfield, but people can still have the jobs, let's say in Leeds or Manchester, and that the commuting options are still very much there for them.
Yeah, very much so, Matthew. Yeah, I completely and utterly agree. And that is the point, without a doubt. I think for quite some time, it's been Huddersfield Town Centre has almost been kind of stuck in its own cycle, where a business might go into a unit and last sort of between 6 and 8 months, maybe. And then, you know, they would come out, and then that building would go back on the market again. And then another business would come in doing pretty much the same. And then they would last 6 to 8 months. And it's that kind of cycle that we want to break, because if it's not working after 3 or 4 times, it'd be a fool that continues to try and make it work. You know, I think you've got to think outside the box and do something different. And I think we're kind of at that point now where, if we don't do something at some point, unfortunately, we're going to end up, you know, like a lot of the more northern towns, you know, they've really, really suffered and really, you know, really found it difficult to evolve, I suppose, really. And that's what it is. It's just an evolution, a very natural one, not at any cost. And I think there's a key thing that we're probably overlooking here. We're not going to be able to click fingers and just have this happen overnight. There is an element of realism in this. This is going to take an awful lot of inward investment from outsiders. There's no question about that. It's going to need an awful lot of buy-in from various different quarters in order to make it happen. Not least, you know, property investment, but construction, and then obviously somebody at the end of market to be able to actually take up the space, for example, whether that's students staying in the town and having a reason to be here, or whether it's, you know, high-end either call centres or, like I say, insurance firms or accountancies or any of that, anybody of that ilk that, will help us to retain some of the student population. So it's pie in the sky to a certain extent until we've figured out what the right plan is and how to get that inward investment. But it's got to start somewhere.
Thank you for sharing that. Of course, we aren't here today pretending everything is all sugar-coated and perfect. What do you think the challenges are for the town centre?
I think the challenge is going to be that inward investment, Sophie. I really do. You can have all the fantastic ideas in the world, but at the end of the day, somebody has to finance it, and somebody has to finance it with the idea that it is going to work. They have to be 110% committed to it, and you sometimes kind of wonder where that kind of backing is going to come from. When we have Manchester up the road and Leeds, up the road as well, which is very, very appealing. But there are opportunities. There are absolutely opportunities. Huddersfield doesn't have to be a thoroughfare. It can be a fantastic, thriving town in its own right. So I think the biggest challenges are going to be attracting that inward investment, because I'm absolutely certain that when it comes in, it won't go anywhere. They'll have made a fantastic decision on it.
One of my questions was what your visions are for Huddersfield in the future, but you've kind of covered that when you've talked about the heritage quarter, the living quarter, the playing quarter, and the commercial quarter. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, or you have a message for us working in the town centre on what we could do to start moving forward?
I think the work that you guys have done so far has been absolutely fantastic. You only have to look at the differences, and they're major differences that might get overlooked by some people, to be honest with you. But the tangible aesthetic differences that Huddersfield Bid's made in the town centre so far have been fantastic. And it's not just the huge projects of street cleaning that have been undertaken, or the huge octopus that graced the Packhorse Centre main entrance for a while. All of these initiatives go much further than Huddersfield has been able to go before, and we're just really, really excited to be involved in one of those initiatives with the street wardens. It'll be an absolutely fantastic project. But even the idea that could happen the best part of 12 months ago was a really, really far-fetched, far-strung dream that they would have that kind of service out in the town centre. And I think it's just testament to the hard work that you, Sophie, and Matthew have done over the last couple of years. We can really, really see things going in the right direction. It's baby steps, it's manageable things, but I would say just keep doing what it is that you're doing. The events that you're putting on have all been absolutely fantastic, really, really interesting. And we know that you dig deep into the heritage of Huddersfield. It interests you guys. We can see that it's a passion for you guys as well, which is just for a native, it's absolutely fantastic to see. If you can just give us a Premier League football team again, we'd be absolutely over the moon. What do you think?
Well, I think, Tony, we spoke, depending on where in line this podcast goes, we spoke to a cricketer that you may know in another podcast. So who knows? If you're putting your hand up to go for trials for Huddersfield Town, who knows? We could get you up front or in goal, and we could get Huddersfield back to where they belong.
I've been there and done that. We only managed Ossett Albion, I'm afraid, in the northeast counties. It was a step above me was Huddersfield Town, I'm afraid. Even back in those days. But yeah, we'll have to stick with the cricket, I think.
All right, we've now come to the end of Hello Huddersfield, and thank you, Tony, for being with us today on the show. I think from what you've said during the show, I think, Matthew, we've got our new tagline for when we've got most of our initiatives in place. Live, learn, work and play in Huddersfield Town Centre. So thank you for that, Tony. Now, listeners, if you have any questions or have something you would like to share, then get in touch at enquiries@huddersfieldbid.co.uk. You're listening to
Hello, Huddersfield.
the Voices of Huddersfield, inspiring the future vision.